11 months and 29-day check-in with No Nicotine. Welcome to my video. In today's video, I'm going to be checking in with y'all regarding, my journey of nicotine and quitting nicotine after 11 months and 29 days, just shy of the 1 year complete milestone of 1 year with no nicotine, which I will be reaching very soon. Throughout the next phase. And so mentally, what have I noticed? And what do I have to check in with about when it comes to mentally after 11 months, 29 days with no nicotine? I mentally am at this point in time developing a stronger mentality when it comes to facing tough to face thoughts when it comes to mentally. And this has to do with nicotine addiction and substance use, because you're not comfortable with those thoughts that you're having while you're addicted to something, when it's telling you, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, I think you should quit, I think you should stop, I think this is damaging, I think that this isn't the right action for us. So you're getting better when it comes to the access to your mental strength and developing those mental strengths to overcome those thoughts and to be able to use that in a way where it can mentally move you towards a space of mental growth, rather than, let's talk about mentally being fixated on a substance, because mentally you gotta just face that. Gotta be able to be stronger and strong enough to travel mentally and have a mental state of being that is strong and that you can depend on, rather than have your mental state of being depend on things external from you. And mentally, it's come to my awareness that after stopping the use of a substance, you will come to mentally think about it. You will have those thoughts like I talked about, and the journey is for a part of that is getting over those so-called cravings, or so-called mental thoughts of relapse, mental thoughts of use, and maybe the mental memories that you have of the addiction. It's a lot of that when it comes to mentally, and it's a lot of detaching from that as well. Like, there will be times where you will think about it, there will be times when you won't think about it, but the fact that you don't do it anymore is going to mentally make sure that you don't think about it as much as you do have the off chance of thinking about it, of remembering it, of having it brought up in your reality, and you mentally have to think about it. So that is something to share mentally. Physically, you're not at this point, about almost a year without a substance, almost a year without nicotine, you're not at all going to be physically dependent on it. As long as you haven't really actually, in that span of time, consume the substance and use the substance, of course, it'll still be in your system if that's the case. But physically, after an extended period of time, you come to realize that regardless if you have a thought or a feeling of, hey, you want to use again, or you want to try this again, you're physically it won't be there to remind you that, oh yeah, you are addicted to this. It won't be able to validate that physically. So you'll physically be, I'd say, almost repulsed to actually do it, because hey, I know how far I've come. Do I really want to mess up my results, mess up all the progress that I've made with just going back to it? And that's not to say your progress can't get made back, or you can't build from that position that you were in, or that position that you want to put yourself in. But I'm just saying, physically you'll come to realize, and you'll come to your awareness that sometimes it's just a lot more deeper than what physically is occurring. But physically you'll realize that you don't need any substance to be dependent on, and that it's only your perspective that is a little bit influenced to say, oh, I need something, oh, I need this at all times to exist. And that's very true when it comes to substance use, that you just need to be aware that you are, at the end of the day, the one that has the ability to change your actions. You're the one that's actually in charge of your own actions, so take responsibility when it comes to that. And not only that, but checking in physically, I'm so much more appreciative of my vessel, of my physical state of being when it comes to back in the day when I was participating in this action that was so detrimental to the physical state of being. And over time it can have that compounding effect, of course. A lot of times when I did have a physical, let's say, setback or endeavor that was non-goal orientated, or let's say something of the sort, I would be a lot harder on myself because physically I wasn't actually confident, or physically I actually wasn't strong enough or appreciative and grateful for my physical state of being, that I overlooked all that, and I would say, oh, I'm bad, or I'm just not doing the right things. Nowadays, I've learned that when something like that happens, I am much more in a better physical state of being to be able to move forward, regardless of what that setback may be. It could be anything that happens when it comes to physically. I'm much more willing and able to move forward and not be carrying so much of that past energy with me when it comes to physically attaining that information, or attaining that position and or space that I need to be in when it comes to physically. And of course, checking in emotionally, there's no emotional dependence when you go a long time without a substance, or a specific amount of time, and you'll come to realize that emotionally you gotta be the one to take care and be the one to emotionally stay balanced, emotionally be in a state of, let's say, stability, just for the betterment of your state of being, the betterment of your well-being when it comes to everything associated with yourself. It's much more reliant, much more successful in order for you to be that way. It's much more likely to happen if you are emotionally not dependent on something like, let's say, a substance, or emotionally burdened when it comes to the way that you experience through time, like you're carrying a lot of emotional baggage with you. Well, that can't be good, because you bring that around other people and it could be toxic to others, and or let's not even say that, but let's not only say that, but it could also be toxic to oneself. So emotionally sorting that out, emotionally being mature enough to say, hey, you know what, this wasn't right for me, I'm not really feeling all that about this. And then on the reverse side, it's about putting yourself there in the emotional state of being when you do feel like doing something, when you have that passion for it, and when you can genuinely know and feel like you are in the right emotional state of being when it comes to what you're getting out of how you take action. So emotionally checking in, that is for sure something that can be healed, is the emotional state of being when it comes to anything. Let's say trauma, let's say past negative actions, past anything that you can move on from, and you can be much bigger than that trauma, much bigger than that baggage. You can be way more than your insecurities or whatnot, what you may have. And so on the journey like this, it's an emotional you get the emotional up and you get the emotional when it comes down. So you'll experience everything, and on a journey like this, you'll just continuously feel as if your emotional state of being is being stronger. And that's not only the case for that, but it's because you have done the work and you've actually put yourself in a state of being where you feel good about what you're doing. You no longer regret, you no longer feel any guilt from your actions, and you're able to move on, like I said, emotionally free and in an emotional state of being that is right for you. And then not only that, but being able to emotionally react to, let's say, your own actions, or we can also say other people's actions. We can say that you become much more able to, react to what is happening when you have that emotional intelligence and you have that emotional strength that can be found, that can be obtained. And it's about knowing that you're actually stepping in your truth at when it's in your ability, when you have the ability to do that. You gotta be that version of yourself. You gotta be that strong version of yourself. You gotta be that not dependent, but being able to be dependent on and that independent at the same time, and also be able to be a leader in truth and be able to not have your actions making yourself emotionally not feel good. Like, know your fight, know your dog in the fight. If you have skin in the game, then you are justified to interact as you wish, as long as if you're not going against something else when it comes to another person's energy, and or if you see it's fit, then you are justified because you are only restoring the balance. And emotionally, you need to be aware enough to be able to say, okay, I know emotionally I'm not specifically making up this problem or spewing out a specific energy that I don't necessarily mean. And if I see someone else doing that towards me, based off me being genuine and based off mere nothing for one to go off on one other with, and it's not justified in the first place, then it's about knowing how far you can go and knowing what you really are doing. Like this morning, I was interacting with someone who was telling me that I don't belong in a place where I do belong. And they not only were saying that, but they were saying that I wished I was something that I wasn't, which that isn't either true either, because someone that wishes that they were something else is one that doesn't enjoy being the self, one that is hateful towards self. And that's just really not true, because I know for sure I've made decisions and I made choices to do things that are actually right for me and that I'm actually proud of. And for this person to then say, oh, you think you're being hard with that name, Morgan, and that's my name. I don't say, oh, anyone's name is necessarily a hard name. Like, it's just a name. That all dissolves once you're face to face with you. Let me tell you, like, You don't know me, you don't know who I am just based off of my name. No one can possibly know who someone is just specifically based off their name unless you've known them in the past or you are a familiar spirit with them and you have had that past interactions with them. And so for someone to tell me, hey, you don't belong here, you are not welcome, you wished you were something else for a long time, and for it to not be true, I emotionally, as the intelligent one, it's just really kind of bouncing off me. And then there I can teach this person how they are not necessarily doing the right thing. And then if it has to be telling the truth, like sometimes the truth hurts. And so if that's going to affect someone else's emotional state of being, you got to know that you're doing it for the right reason and not for a reason that is of selfish nature or that is of, let's say, doing it for the wrong reason rather than for the justified reasons. And to also know how far you can go with the situation by using that intelligence and by using that that ability to see that perspective clearly. And when it comes to spiritually checking in, like I just talked about, when it comes to emotionally, there's a lot of confirmation that I'm on the right spiritual path because, like I said, this person who I was interacting with, which kept saying these things to me, which weren't necessarily true, but they only showed a lot about this person. So it wasn't even that big of a deal. It was more of, tell me this is over. Shouldn't be over. Alright, there we go. Now, at that point, I could confirm that if someone's getting that angered just by me possibly being on the right path and doing actions that are correct for my path, and someone going against that resistance that person had, it was because I was standing up for someone that I know, because I was standing up for someone that I support. So I'm not going to continue to see someone that I support having someone sneak diss them and or talk weirdly about them. I'm going to actually keep that person accountable for it, which is another thing that spiritually checking in I've been doing, is to be able to stay spiritually protected and also share that with the ones that I care for, and also working on that ability to share that with the ones that I care for. So to anyone out there on their path, power to you. Stay strong, stay consistent, stay true to yourself, stay mentally protected, stay spiritually protected, stay emotionally protected, stay physically protected. Thank you for watching this. If you made this to the end, thank you for support. I'll catch you in the next one.